Hello, and welcome to Effective Networking with Customers and Senior Leadership. This is Steve Braybrook, and on behalf of Chubb's Impact team, I'd like to extend our thanks and appreciation for you sharing your time with us today. Our presenter is Kelly McDonald, founder of McDonald Marketing, as well as a best-selling author who is considered one of the nation's top experts in consumer trends. Her firm has twice been named one of the top ad agencies in the U.S. by Advertising Age magazine, and is ranked as one of the fastest-growing independently owned companies in the U.S. by Inc. magazine. Kelly has been featured on CNBC and Forbes magazine, Businessweek, Fast Company, and CNNMoney.com. But before I pass the virtual mic over to Kelly, I'd like to introduce Melissa Scheffler, Mid-Atlantic Region COO, Pittsburgh Branch Manager, and the co-chair of the Impact Business Roundtable, who has a few words to kick us off. Melissa, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. And hi, everyone. We're thrilled to be hosting this session for you today. And since we have a captive audience of about 1,000 people, I wanted to take this opportunity to highlight Impact, our Women's Business Roundtable at Chubb. As most of you know, Impact is dedicated to the support, development, and advancement of women to realize their career goal while driving Chubb's business objectives and strengthening our ties to clients, brokers, and the insurance industry. We have a leadership team comprised of 15 women across North America, and we're supported by our culture office as well as our 2 executive sponsors, Kelly Kinsella and Fran O'Brien. We have an established network of regional connectors and branch champions, all working together to advance the strategic priorities of Impact. One of our strategic priorities this year is to deepen our connectivity with our agents and brokers. To that end, this webinar is being recorded and will be available to share with our external business partners. Whether it be a virtual session with a local business partner or hopefully a future in-person get-together, we think our business partners will find value in the material that Kelly is going to share with us today. We also have the well-received session that Kelly hosted in the fall that was titled Crafting the Customer Experience for People Not Like You, and we can share that with our business partners as well. If any of you have ideas about sharing this information with your agents and brokers, please reach out to your local Impact contacts. You can find all of our Impact leadership team members, the regional connectors, and the branch champions on our Village page. All right, so that's enough from me. Now let me turn the program over to Kelly McDonald. Kelly, it's yours.
Hi, thanks everyone, and thank you, Melissa. Thanks everyone for joining. Let's just get started. We're going to be talking about effective networking with your customers and also internally with your senior leadership. So, what we're going to cover today is what networking is and what it isn't. Key hint, it is not, in fact, at all about selling. And why it matters, and obviously you think it matters because you're making time for this webcast. So we're already 90% of the way there, but I'm going to show you all the different ways that it can really positively impact your business and your career. We're also going to be covering how to do it right, the do's and don'ts, and networking for senior leadership within your organization. So starting with what is networking. Networking is about building long-term relationships and a good reputation over time. That's the key. It's not a quick sale. It's not a sales pitch. It is, in fact, fostering and nurturing relationships over time. It involves getting to know people and meeting people that you can assist and who can potentially assist you in return. It is not selling. Sales will absolutely come of good networking, but networking in and of itself is not a sale. And I'll talk more about this momentarily. But it does result in sales, and it's not a sales pitch. It's vital to your career. It's vital to your business growth. And again, you know this or you wouldn't be making time for this. So I'm going to cover now 10 reasons why networking is worth your time. The first thing is it strengthens the business relationships and connections that you already have. Every one of you is already successful and you have great business connections, but networking is about taking those connections to the next level and sharing, not taking. You will in fact gain from effective networking, but you have to go into it with the mindset that it's about what can you share that would help the other person. It's about forming trust and helping each other toward goals. You got to find opportunities to assist your contacts, and then that is what in fact strengthens the relationship. And by doing that, you sow the seeds for them to reciprocate their appreciation and help you in kind. It's a really nice, beautiful circle when done beautifully of I help you, you help me. No one is taking anyone for granted. No one is being used. It is a beneficial relationship that is mutually beneficial. So the number 2 reason is fresh ideas. Your network can actually be an amazing source of new perspectives. And exchanging information on the challenges that you have, the goals that you're trying to achieve with someone who you trust, who you admire, and who is like-minded can be hugely beneficial. It's also a way to build your reputation as an innovative thinker. Innovation comes from the very core of innovation are the 2 words, what if? And so innovation and innovative ideas come from talking over with somebody and saying, well, what if we did it like this? Or have you ever tried this, etc. So fresh ideas, which is always good for business. And if you've ever needed proof of that, I'd say it's where we are right now. Then this is a great opportunity to use networking for fresh ideas. And obviously it can advance your career. But if you've never really tried effective networking, I think you're going to be surprised at how rapidly it can help advance your career and how much it can. Because being visible and being noticed is essential when building your career. It's pretty hard to build your career if nobody knows who you are, or if they do know who you are, they don't really know what you're good at or what you're known for. And so regularly attending professional and social events when you're able to do so increases your visibility, shows that you're active in your business community, and you become known. And I personally believe that the more you're out being seen within that business community, the more we outsiders inherently bestow upon you an expert status. I mean, people who network effectively, they do come across as leaders. This also helps build your reputation as knowledgeable, reliable, and supportive. And as I said, your involvement is perceived as expertise. Number 4 is access to jobs and sales opportunities. If you're working for Chubb or if you're working for, an agent or a broker, then you know that there's always another rung on the ladder that will allow you a greater position with more challenges, more responsibility, and you want access to those opportunities. So by networking, you open the door to new possibilities for your business growth, your career advancement, your personal growth, learning and knowledge, and new knowledge. And also, active networking keeps you top of mind for when those opportunities come about. And it increases the likelihood that someone's going to recommend you or refer you to someone or make a key introduction. So I'm a marketing person by training, and it's kind of the same thing. If you're in marketing, the number 1 rule that you learn is always keeping your brand or your name out there so that when someone needs that, then they think of you. Think of yourself as your own personal brand, and if you are visible and always keeping yourself out there, then when someone has a great job opportunity or an opportunity that you might be perfect for, they're going to think of you because you never went away in the first place. And broadening your knowledge, and who amongst us doesn't want to continually broaden our knowledge? So having a wide network of trusted, informed, interconnected contacts provides you broader access to valuable information. And again, I kind of come down to innovation. Innovation is about what if, and diversity of thought is the way that we approach, well, here's how we've done it at my company, or here's something that we tried. So broadening your knowledge is always a good thing. You can take what you need from that and apply it to your business or not. And also, networking fosters the exchange of best practices. I mean, so many of us learn by listening to other people talk about their business issues and their business challenges and what they've tried, the solutions that they've tried, and what's worked. That becomes best practices. Learning about the business techniques of your peers. What are they personally doing that's really, enabled them to move ahead in their organizations? And obviously, keeping abreast of industry developments. In your roles, you have to know what's going on in your industry. That's imperative. And a really great way to keep up is not just reading the trade publications online. It's also about talking to people and finding out what's going on with them, and then you'll broaden your own knowledge. Career advice and support. Who amongst us doesn't need that? Every one of us has trusted friends, trusted peers that when we don't know what to do, we ask them. So gain the advice of experienced peers who have been down this road before and can tell you and what they've learned and steer you in the right direction and give you solid advice, who have your best interests at heart. Discussing common challenges and common opportunities and soliciting their advice and guidance can really save you a lot of time, or maybe, keep you from, going off the road in a wrong direction. Also, offering genuine assistance to your contacts is also key, because it sets a very strong foundation for receiving support when you have to ask for it. Not that it's a scorecard. I think this is really an important point to make. You don't want to be keeping a scorecard and going, okay, I helped Steve once, so he owes me, and Melissa also owes me. It's not that, but it is the idea that if I help you, then it's when I need help, I have every right to knock on your door, metaphorically speaking, and ask for help, and that primes the pump for that person to do so. It's a tremendous confidence builder. It really is astonishing how the more you network, the more it builds your confidence. And that's because when you are putting yourself out there with people that you don't really know very well, there may not be in your core sphere of people, it's challenging you and it's taking you in new places. And what that does is it builds your social skills and it builds your confidence. It builds your social skills because you learn how to talk to different people and find the common ground that's there and start the conversations that inevitably lead to what's going on in their business world that is fascinating or helpful to you. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. But I have seen, especially junior people in my career, who have been very shy, very afraid of like making a misstep or whatever. And when they start doing more networking, the more they do, you can almost see their shoulders go back and, that little lift of the head, because they realize that it's fun, it's exciting, it's stimulating, and that really nothing bad happens. They're doing it well, and it really, really takes you out of your comfort zone in a good way. I really like this quote from Ronda Rousey, female boxer, very successful, and she said, I got to bed every night thinking about all the ways that I can succeed. And I love this because she doesn't say, I go to bed thinking about if I can succeed. She's thinking about all the ways that I can succeed. And I think we all have that. We are already successful. You wouldn't be on this webcast if you weren't successful. You're already successful. How much more successful can you be if you open up your network, start working those contacts, being helpful, receiving help in return? Those are all the ways that you can succeed. A key thing about networking is that it allows you to gain different perspectives. And different perspectives are very, very key. It changes the way that you think about your business day to day. And by talking to different people in specific areas with your problems, your challenges, and your hypothetical scenarios, you gain from them a core different perspective. They may say, I see it differently, Melissa. I understand what you're going through, but here's what one of our clients said, and it made me change my mind about that. Boom, different perspective that you wouldn't necessarily get if you weren't out networking. And asking for opinions from your network allows you to solve problems, eliminate those roadblocks, and move the business forward and try new approaches with confidence. I really think this is one of the most important things in networking, is the different perspectives. And to share with you the power of different perspectives, the NADA, which is one of the largest associations that there is in the United States, it's the National Automobile Dealer Association. It has over 16,000 members, and these are all very successful dealers, different sizes, all over the country. And they know the power of peers so much that they created a thing years ago, decades ago, that are called 20 groups. And 20 groups are called that because they consist of a group of 20 dealers. The NADA actually puts these dealers together, and they are geographically spread out, so they don't compete. So for example, you might have in your 20 group a dealer in Orlando, Florida, and another one in Rockford, Illinois, and another one in San Diego. So the beauty of that is that these dealers get together, they have very complex business models, millions of dollars in inventory, just a very big business, and they don't have anybody they can talk to. And they certainly don't have anybody they can talk to locally, because the other dealers in their market are dealers they compete with. So NADA fostered the power of peer sharing by creating these groups of 20 who get together twice a year at key meetings, and they share everything. Their P&L statements, their numbers, no holds barred. They have no reason not to be honest and forthright with each other. And this is a key part of the success of the dealers in the NADA network. Also, great networking almost inevitably leads to long-lasting business and personal relationships. And I know that I speak for probably all of us when I say that one of the most gratifying parts of working in any role, any capacity, any company, is the personal relationships and the business relationships with other people that you form. So some of the strongest and most long-lasting friendships started with a business connection. And I think that's so inspiring, because that's the basis for a great relationship, is something strong in common like that. So your networking contacts have usually like minds. I mean, you have that core basis for working in common, and those professional networks can't help but bleed over into personal friendships. And I'm sure that many of you have people in your life that you met through work that you have become fast friends. And it's just a very gratifying part of networking. It's also about being able to get any question that you want ever answered. If you've got a good network, you've got the answer to every question that you could ever throw out. So with a strong network, you're always going to have someone in that network who knows the answer. So if I call Michelle and I say, Michelle, I've got this question, and she says, you know, I actually don't know the answer to that, but Steve does, or Kristen does, then I'm going to use her network to get to the answers that I need. And even when there's actually like no definitive clear answer, or no, one way to do something, or a clear yes, no, then you can at least still bounce ideas off of that other person because it's somebody that you respect. But this is another reason why even top executives and CEOs will spend so much time fostering those personal relationships, because it's also about getting the answers that you need quickly when you need them. So that lays the foundation for why networking is important. And again, you already know it, because that's why you're making time for this. So let's get to the nuts and bolts of how to do it right. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts that you need to know so that you don't step on a landmine and do the wrong thing. So here are the do's. The key do's are that there's not one size fits all out there. Your different contacts have to be approached in different ways. So don't treat everybody the same way and go, okay, here's my roster of networks and contacts, whatever. I'm going to start emailing these people or calling these people. I'm going to see them at the next event, whatever it is. This is understanding that there's a core difference between different types of people. So let me just kind of talk about some of the generational differences, because I know that that's something that everyone on this webcast is experiencing, is working with people older or younger than they are. And so here's the definition of the different generations. And I like to put the ages underneath, because if you tell me, Generation Z was born between 1995 and 2015, I have to kind of quickly do the math in my head of, okay, so how old are they? So these are the age ranges. And as you can see, obviously it's not one size fits all. So how does that manifest itself in different styles and ways that you might adapt your networking style to work effectively with different people? So let's start with boomers, which again, the boomers here, you can see the ages there. Networking with boomers, one of the things that's key to understand is that their adulthood and their first 20 years of their working life did not rely on technology. Technology really wasn't part of the picture. The first half of their career, no technology. So consequently, relationships were centered around human connections. And to this day, obviously, all of us use technology in increasingly important ways, and boomers are no different, but their desire is to connect humanly. So you can take advantage of this by building real relationships and connecting on a human level. One way you do that is by bringing up topics that both people can relate to. There's nothing more alienating than someone talking about something that you have no idea or no interest in what it is. So if I'm talking to somebody and they say that they are a master fencer, somebody who's doing fencing, I might make polite conversation about that, but I can't really add to the conversation because I don't fence. And so it kind of leaves me out of the conversation. Building a conversation that two people can engage in is incredibly important. And when following up with a boomer, you might be inclined to send an email, but I think it's better if you actually can add a personal touch by picking up the phone or even doing a handwritten note. You know, handwritten notes, study after study shows those get opened because they are so novel anymore. Nobody does it. And it really sends a strong note of thoughtfulness. So if I was working and networking with a fellow boomer and they did something extraordinary to help me, I would absolutely write a handwritten note and say, Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me last Thursday about this, this, and this. Your insights really helped me. I really appreciate you. I can't wait to be able to be of service to you at some point. Or you can do that over the phone as well. But that's just a little warmer way. What about Gen X? The important thing to know about Gen X is that they are highly independent, and that's with very good reason. Most were latchkey kids. When they grew up, they were often living with one parent, and that parent was working. So they weren't home to help them with homework, et cetera, at 3:30 in the afternoon. They were at work. So the child learned to come in, you know, let themselves in, make themselves a sandwich, do their own homework, possibly do some chores, walk the dog, et cetera. And consequently, they learned to problem solve on their own, because when they had a problem with their homework, there was no internet and there was no adult there to answer it. So they just had to figure it out on their own, and they did. They're highly resourceful and highly independent. So when networking with Gen X, the important thing to remember is give them enough information about your products or services so that they can make a decision on their own down the line. And let them know the benefits of connecting with you and your products and services and how those things can change their lives. But it's all about giving them enough information so that they can decide when they're ready. What about working with millennials and Gen Y, networking with them? They're very, very open-minded. They're the most diverse generation, and they have a very, very inclusive mentality. And they also have immense confidence. And the reason that that's important is that many of us sort of hold back and we don't really brag on ourselves or leverage our talents and our skills. But with Gen Y, they appreciate you telling them what's great about you, what's great about your products and services, and what sets you apart from others. They don't view it as egotistical or narcissistic or self-absorbed. They just view it as, you know, sharing your talents. So when you're tailoring your strategy to follow up with them, do it with their appreciation for technology. Send them an email, text message them, connect with them on LinkedIn or other social media if that's acceptable. But you definitely want to make sure that you're touting your own strengths and talents because they expect it and they appreciate it. What about networking with Gen Z? Well, Gen Z has a very interesting view on this, and they call it net weaving instead of networking. Net weaving is a very relaxed approach to networking. Their idea is that it's all about the other person, and it's not at all about focusing on what you need and believing that that assistance will eventually come back to you. So what net weavers do is try to find out what they can offer the other person that would be helpful. So let's say you've met somebody from Gen Z and you hit it off and you're networking with them, you know, follow up with a referral, a resource, or even an article that you read that reminded you of the conversation that you had or what you think might be helpful to them. They would find that very helpful, and that would be a great example of net weaving and connecting in a meaningful way. So how do you connect at an event? Well, you know, right now we're not doing a lot of events, but we will. And so here are some things to prepare you for when you go to your next networking event, whether it's formal or informal. First of all, be prepared. Understand how you present yourself on LinkedIn is how you should present yourself in real life. On LinkedIn, your profile is polished and professional, and it's probably very concisely worded. That's how you should be able to present yourself to people who are meeting you for the first time. And set a target for that event. When you go into that event, don't just wander around with no plan. Say to yourself, I intend to meet 8 or 10 new people and I want to get their business cards. That's my goal for the night. Avoid saying, what do you do? I personally think it's a real conversation ender because sometimes people tell us what they do and, you know, then where does the conversation go from there? A better way is to say, tell me about yourself. And what I find is great about this is people will tell you what they think is interesting or important. Sometimes it has to do with work. It might be, I just moved here. I used to live in Seattle and now I live in Chicago, you know, whatever it might be. But that's a broader approach than just what do you do? And let the conversation unfold. Try not to orchestrate it too much. conversation naturally flows, and let it flow and take the turns and twists that a conversation naturally does. Remember, you're not trying to make a sale here. You're just trying to make a human connection. And be a good guest. In the same way that if I invited you to my home for dinner, you would be a good guest in my home. You would show up with a bottle of wine. You would ask me if you could bring something, and you would be a good guest. Be a good guest at the event that you're attending. Be open to any and all new conversations. Invite others to join. And if you see somebody sitting or standing alone, make an effort to go over there, say hello, introduce yourself, and try to draw them out. Let me circle back to inviting others to join your conversation. Here's something that I do, and I think it really helps at networking events is often I find myself talking to 3 or 4 people and we're standing in kind of a small circle talking. And out of the corner of my eye, I can see another person sort of standing on, the edge of that circle, waiting for a break in the conversation so that they can say something, but they're standing apart. I always look at them and smile and say, join us. And then they do. And it's funny because the circle that I'm in will actually open and let that person in, and they're not standing there feeling awkward. So again, be a good guest. When you see somebody who's clearly trying to join your conversation, stop and say, please join us, and they will step in and you'll be a better networker for it. Also, when you do meet somebody, you're clicking and you want to get their business card, ask for 2. Tell them, I want one for myself and I want another one because I might know somebody who might need you. That's a great way to go. And who wouldn't appreciate that? And write down the key notes that you need to remember right there on the spot. It might seem weird, but if Kristen is telling me all about these people that I should be talking to at, let's say, her company, and she's saying, you need to be talking to this person and this person, I can't remember all that and commit that to memory on the spot. So I might, whip out my phone and say, hang on one second, let me just get that name right. And there's never a problem with that. No one is ever going to find that problematic. In fact, they're going to be flattered that you're actually listening to them so closely that you're taking notes. And follow up right away. You want to contact the person that you just met the very next day and reference the discussion that you had. Really great talking to you, Steve, at the party last night or the cocktail hour or whatever. And I really appreciated you talking to me about the challenges that you've had, in your role since you moved into this new position. I can totally relate, and I really enjoyed our conversation and like to keep the conversation going. The key about this is timeliness. It's kind of like going to the concert and getting a t-shirt. So at a concert, you're all jacked up, you're super excited about the moment, you're in the moment, and you want to get the t-shirt. If the line's too long, you tell yourself, I'll get the t-shirt online later. But you know what? You don't. The memory starts to fade, the moment starts to fade. So take advantage of that concert moment and metaphorically, of course, get the t-shirt. You want to follow up right away before time starts to take you apart and in a different direction. So what about if you're an introvert? I do get this question a lot. There's a lot of introverts out there, and networking is part of business. And for introverts, it can be very difficult. So what I would say to an introvert is start with one person in a very easy opener. And when you go to a networking event, instead of again saying, what do? Start with, what brings you here tonight? And start with something easy like that. Someone will take that and run with it. Also be honest. I think it's really important that if this isn't easy for you, you share that with someone. You say, you know what, I'm an introvert and these things are always difficult for me. Thank you so much for talking to me. Who's not going to respond to that? And also ask if that person that you're talking to knows other people at the event, and if so, can they introduce you to someone? And when they do, then ask that person when you've concluded a conversation, hey, is there anybody here I should meet? Can you introduce me to anyone? What I find is that people are always happy to help. So let's talk about some networking don'ts. The don'ts are really important because the last thing that you want to do is make your well-intended efforts, blow up in your face. So some things to think about, excuse me. Don't wait to build your network until you need it. The biggest mistake that people make is sort of waiting until they feel like they have a good career, foothold, and then try to build their network. You should be building your network all along the way. And you also don't want to be asking for people right when they need something, right when you need something. It really is sort of disingenuous when someone that you haven't talked to in 5 or 6 years calls you up or emails you because they need something. Then you feel used. You don't actually feel like helping. You feel like, wow, this is just a transaction for this person. They're only contacting me because they need something. It's much better to keep your conversations and your networking going all the time so that when you do need something, it doesn't come across that crass. So start early, be proactive, and make networking a part of your daily routine. Some of the best practices that I've heard about are people who start their day with a cup of coffee at their desk, and maybe they read their emails and they read the news, and as they are kind of ramping up their day, they'll send 2 emails to 2 people that they haven't talked to in a while, just saying, I was thinking about you this morning and I wanted to check in and see how you're doing. What's new? Here's what's going on in my world. It's an easy thing to do if you think about doing just like 2 a day. When you do contact people and you're asking help from a network contact, don't ask for too much, but also don't ask for too little. Every networking effort should end with a specific ask, but without asking for the world. So instead of saying, hey, can you connect me with XYZ person at your company? A better way and a better approach is to say, thank you so much for providing your valuable insight on this. Would you be open to connecting me with another person who can provide additional perspective on what we've discussed? It's so important. I'd love to get as many contacts as possible on that. Or can you submit my resume for the job? Talk about putting somebody on the spot. A better way might be to say, thank you for sharing your insight into my career path. It's been a great path so far, but I am interested in one of the roles that I saw posted on the job board. Do you have any additional ideas for the best way for me to get prepared if I were to be invited to interview for this position or when I submit my application? Now, in that case, it's extremely clear what I'm asking for. I'm asking for help, but I haven't put that person on the spot and basically said, can you do this for me? Chances are they're going to step up and actually do as I asked, but it needs to come from them. It can't be a demand, because people like to help and people like to be heroes. Everybody likes that good feeling like, yes, I just totally helped that person. But by keeping your requests small and specific, you're allowing your contact to do more for you. If you ask for the moon, if you say, can you introduce me to the CEO? They may say, I can't do that. But if you say, can you introduce me to anyone at the management level, managerial level, or even assistant managers who could help me, they might say, you know what? Not only can I do that, I can go one better. I've got 2 directors that you should talk to. Let people be a hero. And the way to do that is by keeping your requests small so that they can answer in a larger way. Don't avoid people who share your job title or your role. A big mistake in networking is that people will constantly try to network up. They go for the higher level people because they think they can be more helpful to them or advance their career more quickly or more of a decision maker when it comes to sales. But that is problematic, because you definitely want to be continuing to contact and network with people who share the same problems and obstacles that you have. So be open to meeting people at all levels, and you never know what you're going to learn from people. So as you look at a networking group of people, not only look up, that's perfectly fine, but also look across that organization and even down to people who are in lower level positions than you are, because you want to be able to see the entire landscape. Don't be bland or make your follow-up about you. After meeting somebody, do not send an email that says, thank you for your time. Everybody does that. It's just, there's no there. So more importantly, further the relationship by adding value for that recipient. Definitely thank them for their time, but take the conversation into another deeper level. Maybe you say, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed talking to you last night. In fact, our conversation was so stimulating. I actually was reading online last night and I found this article that we were on the issue that we were talking about. I thought you'd like to see it. So include an article that provides some context. Or did the contact maybe mention that they were, looking for a sushi restaurant that's good? Then you can say, you know what, after we talked about sushi, I went and I found 3 great recommendations that are near your part of town. I don't know if you've checked these out. Enjoy. But by making your follow-up about the recipient, you actually raise your esteem in their eyes. It's actually all about them, but the more you make it about them, the higher your esteem. So let me talk about that, because it is in fact a paradox. The paradox is that the more you focus on someone else, the higher their opinion of you is. And this is true in business and in interviews and even dating. There have been study after study after study that has shown that if an interviewer is interviewing a candidate for a position and the interviewer does all or most of the talking, which is not how an interview is supposed to go, but if they do, they actually have a higher opinion of that candidate, even though the candidate didn't say anything. So it's really weird. People just, when they hear themselves talk, they think everything's going well. So if you think about the opposite of that, when someone is talking solely about themselves, then how interested are you going to be? Think about dating. If you were on a blind date or a first date with someone and all they did was talk about themselves, you would be ending that date pretty quickly. But if your date was asking thoughtful, interesting questions about you and what you like to do and who you are, then you're going to be more interested in that person. So it's a weird truism. So something that you can do is end conversations that you're having with all of your contacts by saying, this has been great. It's been so terrific catching up with you, Lisa. Please tell me, what can I do for you? A lot of the time they're going to say nothing, but maybe they're going to ask for something, and then that's your moment to shine. Major don't. Don't blindside your contacts with well-meaning but lame introductions. This happens all the time, and I know that people have their heart in the right place, but this is a terrible, terrible thing to do to people that you're actually trying to connect. So the problem is people will find two people in their lives that they think should know each other for whatever reason. And they throw them together in an email and they send an email that says, I thought the two of you should know each other. I'll let you take it from here. Here's what really happens with that. The pet peeve is enormous. And the pet peeve is enormous because for the two people that you just tried to connect, it provides no meaningful context whatsoever about why you connected them. And it's an intrusion. Now I have to stop my day. I read this email and I'm like, oh, great, you've actually just added to my to-do list. And now I've got to actually respond and do something because I have to be polite because you're my friend or my contact. It's also an unwanted obligation because I can't blow it off. If it was somebody I didn't care about, I could blow it off. But because you're my friend or my valuable contact, I can't. So now you've just boxed me in and I actually have to take care of this. It's awkward for all the reasons I just mentioned. And here's the kicker. It makes more work for those recipients. Those two people that you just tried to connect who have no context for each other, if I now feel like I have to respond, I actually have to go on LinkedIn or Google and Google this person and try to find out what it is about them that you thought was going to be important for us to connect. So don't do this. I know you mean well. Stop doing it if you've ever done this. Here's a way to do it instead. Consider that the two people are person A and person B. Person A is the requester, somebody who maybe needs something from the other person, and person B is the helper. So what you would want to do is contact person B, the helper, first, and ask if it would be okay if you connect them to the other person. You need to ask their permission, and you need to give them context and tell them why you would like to connect them to this other person and give them background. Once you have their permission, and I'm pretty sure they're going to grant you permission, then you go to contact A, person A, the person who you're trying to help, and you say that you have someone that you think that they should know, and here's why. So you're giving context to both parties. And then let person A know that you've arranged an introduction. So again, nobody's getting blindsided here. Then you, as the connector, you would send an email to both parties. And the purpose of the email to both parties, person A and person B, is to formally make that introduction and definitively set up the next step. So what you want to do is reiterate what each knows about the other and state clearly that person A will email person B to set up a good time to talk. Then separately, and this is very important, separately, privately, between you and person B, send them a thank you note, because never forget that they are doing you a favor. They don't have to connect with this person. This is for you. And so they're doing it for you. And so you need to thank them and say, thanks for taking time to connect with my friend or my colleague. So here's what an email might look like. Hi, Anne. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak with my friend, sister, colleague, neighbor, whoever, Kristen, about your work with XYZ. Kristen has just been promoted at the ABC company, and she is now managing 2 regional sales teams. I know she will benefit from having a conversation with you about the key things that you learned when you were leading 2 teams in your last role. Kristen will contact you to set up a time to talk at your convenience. And again, Thank you, Ann, for taking the time to speak with Kristen. I've told her how busy you are, and we both greatly appreciate you making time for this introduction and quick conversation. So you see that this email has all of the elements that I've talked about. There was some groundwork that was done in advance of this email where I was talking to both parties, but then this party is telling Ann about Kristen, it's telling Kristen about Ann, and it's saying that Kristen will set up a time to talk. Also, don't lose touch with your existing network. You know, we all have an existing network of people we used to work with, people we know in the business. Don't forget the people who have helped you along the way, who have always provided advice, support, and insight. Stay connected with them, whether it's through Twitter or LinkedIn, or even just an occasional email to say hello. Comment on social media on the things that they post so that they know that you're there. And follow up with a quick email on any kind of article or insight that you come across that you know they would like. Once again, it's a small thing, takes 1 minute, but it sends a huge message that I'm thinking about you and I saw this and I'm sending it to you. Also, here's just an idea. Initiating a get together. You know, when we can get together, we do like to socialize. So why not host a happy hour, or you could host a Zoom happy hour and invite a few people who don't know each other and just say, I would love to have a cocktail party or a virtual cocktail party and introduce some of you to some of the other great people in my life. And it's invitation only, so you're all special. Your contacts will appreciate your generosity and the fact that you're making effort to keep the network going. So what about networking with senior leadership? Well, first of all, I want you to think about senior leadership in whatever context makes sense for you. In your working world, it could be the people at your agency if you're an agent, or it could be the people on your team if you work for Chubb, or it could be, you know, senior leadership could be the top of the network or the CEO of a company. Everybody has their sort of own definition of senior leadership. So as I'm going through this, think about what makes sense in your world. Understand and respect the hierarchy in your organization. Every organization has a hierarchy, and it's there for a reason. And you have to respect the way things work in that sense. So work within your appropriate space. I like to call it working one bracket up. And what that means is if this is you at this level, then what you want to do is network and try to get to know people at this level. You don't want to go straight to the CEO. It's not going to work very well, and you haven't established yourself with the people along the way. You're going to need those people, and you want to be well regarded and well thought of by those people. So you definitely want to take care of the one bracket up. You also never want to be seen as somebody who's like going behind their boss or that boss's back or anything. So if this is you and you're, let's say, at the mid-level, and then your networking would be with, again, one bracket up, that person at that level. Again, what you're trying to avoid is going there. You can't just jump brackets like that. It's simply not done, and it doesn't work very well. In fact, it could actually make you look unpolished and a little uninformed about how things work around here. So here's a great way to make a solid impression with someone. To praise or compliment, but sincerely and meaningfully. We all like compliments, we all like praise, but we don't like brown nosing. So a great way to do it meaningfully is to talk about something specific and say, hey, I heard about the sales meeting yesterday and that your forecast is on track for beating last year. Congrats, that's awesome. How did you do that? Or promote your value. I'm really excited about the direction that we're taking, and my team is working on new tactics that should be ready this fall. They're going to save us about 20%, and they're going to streamline operations too. So now you're making an impression with value and with meaning, and advocate for someone. This is a really important thing to do. You know, when you are talking to someone and they're maybe sharing about a role or a position on a project or a team or a department, what an opportunity for you to say, you know who'd be great at that? Jason would be great at that. And then if they say, Jason who? You can say, oh my gosh, I need to introduce you to Jason. He's fantastic. He's been doing this, this, and this. And you can advocate for somebody. What it does is it shows that you're in the know and that you know who's who and who's doing a great job. And it also really positions you as someone who has the best interests of the enterprise, not just yourself, at heart. Stay alert for unexpected opportunities, though. They can come. And so you want to be ready that if a really great opportunity to perhaps have a chat with someone at a higher level that you don't normally have access to, if that opportunity presents itself, you want to be ready. So be prepared in case an opportunity like that comes up, and you definitely don't want to be fumbling and stumbling all over yourself. So the caveat is you have to know your audience and determine appropriateness. And by that, I mean, in some organizations and cultures, no matter how great the opportunity is, it's not okay if you're a junior person to just start talking the ear off of the CEO or an EVP. It just isn't done. But if an opportunity presents itself, you've got to also read other cues like the timing, the environment, the business climate, body language. So let's talk about, the business climate. Let's just say that that, for example, that morning there was a shareholders meeting, and it was a tough meeting, not an easy meeting, things that maybe didn't go that great. And this. Well, that's not the time to pounce on the EVP or the top executive and start talking about yourself or starting a conversation. That's not the moment. They're distracted. Their mind is elsewhere. So read the cues that are there in front of you. If you get into an elevator and a top executive is just completely engrossed in his or her phone or wrapped up in the time, read that cue as like, nope, this isn't a good time. On the other hand, if they seem open and chatty and available, then that's a great time for you to introduce yourself and say something meaningful. Let me leave you with a final thought, and that is that networking is helping. And the beauty and benefit of helping is that helping beats selling. Every one of us is selling something. We're either selling ourselves, our skills and our talents, our products and services, or even our organization. And if you help me, you don't have to sell me, because if you help me, you're going to sell me. I hope this has been helpful. I have a book that's called How to Work With and Lead People Not Like You. It's one of the top 10 best-selling business books, and it's available wherever books are sold, Amazon and all the other online retailers. And if you'd like more information about me or what we do at McDonald Marketing, here's my contact information. I'm always happy to hear feedback on these webcasts, and you can check out our company on mcdonaldmarketing.com. I want to thank you so much for tuning into this webcast today. Thank you for having me.
Well, once again, on behalf of Impact, thanks to everyone for your participation today, and a very special thanks to you, Kelly McDonald, Melissa Scheffler, and the rest of the Impact team for bringing us today's topic. Please be on the lookout for information about accessing today's recording and follow-up resources, which will be made available shortly. This ends our prepared content for the event. Have a great day, everyone.